Our world was born in strife. The three progenitor dragons crafted the plains at the dawn of time and rested in the space that lies between. It was then that cruel Kyber turned on the others, killing noble Sybaris and scattering the pieces of his body. Eberron fought Kyber, but couldn't defeat the great worm, and so Eberron wound Kyber in her coils and transformed, becoming a living prison that could forever hold the darkness within. And this is the foundation of our reality. Eberron is the dragon between, the world on which we stand. Kyber is the dragon below, source of demons and foul things. And the ring around our world is the broken body of Sybaris, the dragon above, whose blood is the source of all magic. Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to the story so far. My name is Wyatt Sutherland, and today we're going to begin our Eberron lore series in earnest. But before we do, I'd just like to remind everyone that if you like these videos and want to see more and better ones in the future, you can support us by going to patreon.com/TS2F. That's patreon.com/TS2F. $1 patrons get a credit at the end of our videos, $3 patrons get access to our Discord, and $5 patrons get access to our videos ad-free, as well as readable PDFs of all of our scripts. The perks only get better at higher tiers, so definitely, please go check it out. Sources are in the description below, and without further ado, let's get into the lore of the Genesis story of Eberron. There are many reflexes of the creation myth of the universe of Eberron, but they all tell the tale of the progenitor dragons, Eberron, Kyber, and Sybaris. Some say they were allies and partners, co-equals in the art of creation. Others say they were bitter rivals, opposing forces creating the universe in an eternal effort to show who could create the best aspects. Still others tell that the progenitors had sacred knowledge of an ancient prophecy that tore them apart as each thought they knew the best way to interpret it. Perhaps all of these things are true, or none of them, or both. Such is the conundrum of attempting to understand such strange eons as those before time and space existed. The sacred texts of the Pyrene Creed, the texts which form the foundation of every major religion in Corvair, state that in the beginning, the three progenitor dragons, Sybaris, Eberron, and Kyber, brought order to the primordial chaos of the youthful universe. They created the planes and bound within them the errant energies of element and ether. They separated fire from water, darkness from light, and death from life. The great chaotic unity was broken in two, equal but opposite. Thus, order was made, and the progenitors rested in the cosmic peace. All remained balanced until Kyber, cruel and malicious, sought its end. Whether she longed for control over the balance or simply for the chaos of before, she nearly destroyed all of their work when she murdered her sibling, Sybaris, tearing his body apart and casting the pieces around her like a rabid dog. Eberron knew she couldn't defeat her sister alone, so she wrapped her body around Kyber and used her power to seal the wicked sister inside. Eberron's life-giving body became the prime material plane, a world prison sustained by the delicate balance of the cosmos that the siblings had set in motion when they were of one mind. In this prison, Kyber rages, a churning, infinite abyss, breaking away at her prison from the inside. Little by little, the world grows ever nearer to the end of all things, when she will break free, shattering Eberron and sending the universe back into its state of primordial chaos. This is how the myth of the progenitor dragons is most commonly reconstructed by the short-lived mortals. Even elves and giants aren't old enough to remember the truth, and in the world of Eberron, truth is often the most difficult thing to find. As for the dragons, even the most ancient of their modern kin aren't old enough to have living memory of their progenitors. However, sages among the dragons, their ancient and most learned, have studied the mysteries of the draconic prophecy written in the stars by the progenitors themselves. The draconic prophecy is the divination of causality itself, not a prediction of the future, but of all possible futures and pasts, with all the overlaps and contradictions such foresight entails. There is only one thing that is accepted by all scholars to be the starting point of the draconic prophecy, the overture of the grand symphony of time and space, the elegy of the first world. The elegy tells of the great dragons Chromatic Tiamat, Bahamut the Platinum, and the sibling they made for themselves, Ruby Red Sardior. In times before times, these three created the first world, and they survived its destruction at the hands of the gods, who tore the first world apart and sent its pieces out into the phlogiston sea to become seedling realities. The three great dragons, the gods who destroyed their creation, and the armies of the gods who done their bidding, are all reincarnated over and over again across the grand tapestry of the multiverse. The prophecy, however, reveals that the great progenitor dragons refused to sing the song again. They traveled into the ethereal mists, beyond where even the gods could be recreated by memory. They forgot all that was, allowed their minds to drift into the great beyond, and there they endeavored to create a new first world. This, the second generation of time and space, born out of need to escape divine conquest, became the universe wherein unfolded the cosmic drama of Kyber, Eberron, and Sybaris. The only question remains, is Eberron truly safe from the conquering will of the gods, or is the draconic prophecy predicting that fate cannot be outrun, and even this world must walk the same path as all others have? Going into our next segment, I want to start by saying that Eberron as a setting has been specifically crafted to be flexible in its interpretation by DMs. I know I kind of sound like a broken record every time, every video I point that out, but it's kind of a big part of the setting. It's one of the biggest aspects of the setting. You can, and in some ways are expected to by Wizards of the Coast, to interpret the creation myth at face value as the canonical truth and factual beginning of the universe of Eberron. But even then, the lore introduced in Fizban's Treasury of Dragons with the Elegy of the First World called that myth into question, and even calls other myths into question, as Sardior isn't even originally the sibling of Bahamut and Tiamat. It's actually the dragon god of death. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but you can find it on the Forgotten Realms wikis and channels and stuff like that. The point is that none of this stuff is set in stone. It's written in Wayfinder's Guide to Eberron that nothing is set in stone, right? So the simple fact of the matter is that the DM is free to decide how they interpret the creation of Eberron. Was it exactly as told, or has history become legend and legend become myth? To quote Galadriel. To be honest, I've kind of struggled to know how exactly to do a video on this topic because while, yes, there is a creation myth that we are expected to understand as the whole truth, I just don't think that mindset works within the world building of Eberron beyond the kind of milestone books released by Wizards of the Coast. Eberron isn't a world of absolutes, but of relativities. It isn't a world of answers, but of questions. Eberron, in as much as it is a playground for pulp adventure stories, it's also a world of pulp noir stories. And so the mysteries really are more important to the setting than the solutions. I hope understanding that helps you see why writing a video about creation myths for this world would be so difficult. The thing I want to address for DMs and players alike is this. Nobody, not even ancient dragons, lived in the world before the Age of Demons. I could see an argument for the Dalkir given their Lovecraftian Great Old One status in the lore, but we have to remember that even they weren't present in the prime material plane until the Age of Monsters, which is well into the timeline of Eberron. So even while the Dalkir are old enough to have witnessed the creation of Eberron, they weren't physically or psychically present in the world until they invaded Corvair in negative 8,000 YK. So what am I saying by all this? Well, I'll tell you. You can pretty much set a campaign in the Age of Demons, and no one alive and present at the time would know the truth about the progenitor dragons, the Draconic Prophecy, or the Elegy of the First World. In fact, most of what the ancient dragon sages know is what has been learned over eons of studying the Draconic Prophecy. Therefore, the earlier you set your campaign, it paradoxically means that the people would know less about the creation of the universe. Eberron is not the kind of setting where you'll see some wizard like Elminster or Fizban come up to your party and start rattling off about the beginning of time and space like they were there. The gods of Eberron are the same sort of, or wait. The gods of Eberron are not the same sort of entities, excuse me. They are not the same sort of entities as the gods of the Forgotten Realms, Greyhawk or Kryn. So they aren't out there just sharing knowledge about the creation of the universe. The gods of Eberron are more absent and it's really kind of questionable as to whether they exist at all. Like where does magic come from? Where does divine magic come from if we can't provably show that the gods exist? And that is the question of Eberron. That's the mystery of Eberron's gods. But we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves. Another thing is that time is an important element to understand when world building for any story. All of recorded human history in our world takes place within the last 6,000 years. And that is not even a third of our own existence as a species. It is very important that we as DMs understand that the passage of time erodes all things, memory most of all. This is particularly true in Eberron, where it might not be in other settings with different rules. So, am I here telling you how to play your games? Yes, kind of. Why would you be here if you didn't want to hear my thoughts on these topics? That being said, I'm also here to tell you that you can play Eberron as if it were any other D&D setting. I just don't think, personally, you're going to be realizing the full potential of Eberron's specific flavor of D&D high fantasy. In my opinion, the only way to get that full potential in our games is to embrace the spirit of noir, of mystery, of adventure, and of relativity that all work as the foundation of Eberron as a setting. So how would I utilize the creation myth in my Eberron campaigns as a DM? Well, the simplest answer is that I would pretty much ignore it entirely. But we're not about simple answers, so let's dig a little deeper, shall we? For those who don't know, our group's particular interpretation of Eberron is called Eberron Unlimited. As the DM, my approach to incorporating the creation myth of the progenitor dragons was to play up the mythic element. According to Britannica, a myth is, quote, a symbolic narrative, usually of unknown origin and at least partly traditional, that ostensibly relates actual events and that is especially associated with religious belief, unquote. Anything stick out about that definition? What stuck out to me is that it's all about belief, tradition, and narrative. In other words, relativity. So, in my Eberron world building, one of the things I try to do is expand on the beliefs regarding the creator dragons, not the actual events themselves. The beliefs, not the events. For instance, the Pyrene Creed forms the foundation of A, the worship of the Sovereign Host and the Dark Six, which includes the Church of the Worm Ascendant, which we'll get into in a later video, B, the Silver Flame, and C, the Blood of Vol. These are the three most popular religions across Corvair, and if you want to see an episode covering them in more detail, Comment below with the one you want to hear about first, and make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to stay updated when those videos come out. Anyways, the main question any DM should be asking themselves about the beginning when prepping an Eberron campaign isn't how did the world come to be or who made it, but rather what do these different religions have to say about their origins? The Pyrene Creed states that the sovereigns together are omnipresent and omnipotent, as well as in total unity. How do the progenitor dragons fit into this? Do vassals of the hosts believe that the gods created the progenitors, or the other way around? The difference between these two things may form the background of intertheological conflict that will bring much more juicy drama to your Eberron campaigns than what having no mystery regarding these things would. The goal for GMs and players should be to immerse ourselves in the world of Eberron, with all its nuances and internal inconsistencies. If you want to know the lore of the beginning of the world in our homebrew version of the setting Eberron Unlimited, stay tuned for our next video where we explain the many creation myths that we made to deepen our experience of the world. If you want to know how Eberron came to exist as a D&D setting, check out our video on the origins of Eberron linked below. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like this video, share it with someone who loves fantasy role-playing games, subscribe and ring the bell to stay updated on all of our future uploads. Please consider supporting us on Patreon for some really great perks, and we'll be back with another video very soon.